In a recent video when my Samsung laptop's battery pack failed, I took it apart and showed how two of the cells had gone. Basically, they'd formed bridges inside, they'd gone short circuits, they wouldn't take a charge anymore. The other four cells were fine, the other four cells out of the six are in this new power bank here. But I showed how that if you put the cells in series, and in the case of the lithium cells in this battery pack, you've actually got two in parallel, and three sets of those in series to create a sort of basically a higher capacity. And I showed how that if they're all fully charged and the current's flowing through the load, that's absolutely fine. But if you discharge it right down to the point that one of the cells goes down to 0 volts, but the current keeps flowing through it, then it actually, because it's not got any more charge to add to it, it starts effectively getting reverse charged by the other cells because they're still pushing current through the circuit. And that results in cell damage. And I took apart that cell, well, one of the cells that had failed, two cells had failed, and I took them apart to see if I could see anything obvious in the film, and to be honest, it wasn't conclusive. The only notable thing was that the graphite-type material that stores the electrons, basically hosts the electrons when the battery's charged or discharged, it had separated from the copper layer and it had plated onto the plastic separator. Now, someone called Ross got in touch and said that he decided to go a bit further. He got a lithium cell and he deliberately over-discharged it. Well, he deliberately reverse-charged it. And once you go above a certain percentage, with cells like this, if you discharge them right down to 0, it's not ideal, but most of them will recover fine. It's when you actually reverse charge it with the opposite polarity that problems start occurring, that metal starts flowing from the electrodes and it violates the insulation of the separator. And I took that one apart, and despite the fact that the graphite-type material had stuck onto the separator, there was nothing really obvious. But Ross went further. Ross grossly over-discharged one by several hours at up to 4 amps current because he wanted to see if it really had much of an effect. So I'll show you some of the pictures that he took after he'd done it. I'll just put that cell out the way somewhere. It's not going to short against anything. I've just caused an avalanche. That's predictable. So he opened the cell, and rather predictably, the copper electrode was just not in good shape. The copper was very eroded and it had pitted quite heavily, and it had carried through. It had tried going basically from the copper side to the aluminium electrode side. And in doing so, the separator in the middle got absolutely copper plated, but it's much more interesting this. You see, Ross has access to something we don't have access to. I've got a little magnifying glass and even my tiny little handheld microscope. Ross has a scanning electron microscope. Well, he doesn't actually own it. It's at his work. And when you look up close at that patterning of the copper on the plastic separator, you can actually see all these little islands that have transferred across. So this is a graphite type material. Those are the little islands of copper that have transferred from the electrode through that and onto the actual plastic separator. There's another picture which shows a three-dimensional effect. So that's the sort of thick layer of the graphite material, and then it's coming down onto the plastic separator itself, showing all those wee islands. Lots and lots of little islands. Forming patterns. I wonder if the patterns are formed by the way it's compressed together, because it's very much sort of vertical lines here, which is quite interesting. It's odd that they followed a pattern. It may be the way the material is applied in the process of the manufacture that, it causes greater bonds. I suppose ultimately that may also determine the effectiveness of the battery, how well the sort of material mates onto that separator. But here's where it gets really, really interesting, because while those give a bit of information, what really shows the maximum information here, this is a 20 micrometer. I'm not sure. I guess it's 20 micrometer per point here. And what it shows here is these little islands of copper all have this pore, and it's a very visible three-dimensional pore that's going through the material. And it showed from the pictures on this side and the other side, it showed that the copper has perforated and plated through. It's basically made a plated through hole through the separator. And that's basically, it's conductive. It means that when you try charging the cell, it's going to leak current through that. And in this case, it would leak an awful lot of current. It would be pretty much draining the current that you were putting in. It would basically be passing straight through the cell. And if you had a cell that had just failed slightly, just one of these had just barely started forming, then you might be able to charge the cell up, but you might notice that, it doesn't hold its charge. It gradually discharges itself through that shunt. With a more severe shunt, it might never ever fully charge, because as the voltage rose on it from the charger, the current flowing through the shunt would increase, and it might just never ever reach the 4.2 volt maximum charge. But some people say that you can blow these shunts clear with a high current source. I do not recommend that. Not with lithium cells, not with something as volatile. Basically, a little mini nuclear reactor, it's basically got so much energy stored in such a small space that damaging it by aggravating basically what was already a fault by blowing it clear and damaging the surroundings is basically going to create a situation that you might end up with thermal runaway, and the whole cell could really shunt at that point. And if the cell was fully charged to maximum capacity, all that energy is going to suddenly start dissipating through that. You're going to end up with pressure and instability, thermal runaway. It's going to overpressurize the cell. It's going to blow out the end, and there's a risk that that vapor that's coming out is going to ignite. So don't try and repair lithium batteries. If a lithium cell has failed with a suspected shunt, that is it, I'm afraid. It's time to go to the recycling centre. But this is great. This is really interesting that you can actually see the failure mode of that separator being pierced by these little copper pits that have gone through. That does answer a lot of questions. It lets us basically see what happens inside these cells when they fail like this.